All right, let's talk about the ISC2 Certified in Cybersecurity exam. We're going to build a super clear roadmap for what is honestly the first big step for so many people into a cybersecurity career. So if you've been kind of wondering, where do I even begin? Well, you're in exactly the right spot. Let's jump in. So you're ready to jump into the world of digital defense. That's awesome. But here's how I want you to think about this exam. It's not just a test. It's really the start of a huge, exciting quest. And you know, every good quest needs a map and a solid plan, right? That's exactly what we're going to lay out today. Now, our guide for this whole journey is a set of practice materials for the exam, and it basically gives us the perfect blueprint for success. So this first part is all about getting our bearings, understanding the landscape before we go charging in. And it really is a fantastic first step. This certification is designed to prove one thing, that you get the fundamental concepts. It shows you speak the language of cybersecurity. It's not about being some seasoned expert on day one. It's all about building that solid foundation you need to become one. Okay, every adventurer needs a toolkit. And for this exam, your most important tools are the strategies for how you actually tackle the questions. So let's crack open that toolkit and see what our source material suggests we pack. These 5 steps are, well, they seem simple, but they are incredibly powerful. First up, read super carefully for keywords like first or best. Second, knock out the obviously wrong answers. That just improves your odds right away. Third, always think in terms of core security principles, like the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The right answer is pretty much always going to align with those big ideas. Fourth, and this is a big one, focus on the concepts, not super deep, niche technical details. And finally, watch that clock. Aiming for about a minute per question is going to keep you on a nice, steady pace. And this right here, this is probably the most important thing to remember. This is straight from the source material, and it's gold. You are not expected to know a bunch of complex configurations. You are expected to understand the why behind security. And honestly, that should be a huge relief. All right, now that we've got our strategy down, let's look at the actual map of the territory we need to cover. The exam is broken down into 5 distinct areas or domains. Think of them like the different regions of your quest. Knowing these is absolutely essential. This chart is our perfect map for figuring out where to focus our energy. And what's interesting is how surprisingly even it is. Yeah, network security has a little bit of an edge at 23%, but most of the others are hanging out right around 20%. Even the smallest chunk, business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response, is still a hefty 17%. So what's the big takeaway? You need a balanced study plan. You really can't afford to skip any of these areas. So let's do a quick tour of these 5 regions on our map. First up, security principles. This is the bedrock. It's the why behind everything else we do. It covers these fundamental ideas we just talked about: confidentiality, integrity, availability, and also the code of ethics that guides every single cybersecurity professional. Next is what I like to call the what-if domain: business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response. This is all about planning for when things go wrong. What if a server gets hacked or a flood hits the data center? How does the business keep the lights on? This domain covers all the plans and procedures that make that happen. Domain 3 is access controls. The easiest way to think about this is like a digital bouncer at a club. It's all about the who and the what. Who gets into the system and what are they allowed to do once they're inside? This covers everything from simple passwords to fancy biometric systems, and it's all guided by this core idea of least privilege, which just means you only give people the absolute minimum access they need to do their job and nothing more. Now we get to the biggest territory on our map: network security. This is all about protecting the digital roads and highways that connect everything together. We're talking about the concepts behind firewalls that act like security checkpoints, the ways we secure our Wi-Fi, and the encryption that keeps our data safe while it's zipping from one place to another. And our final stop is security operations. If all the other domains are about, say, building the castle and its defenses, this one is about the guards on the wall. It's the day-to-day frontline work: monitoring systems for intruders, investigating weird events, and just following the procedures to keep the whole organization safe in real time. Okay, so we know what the domains are, but how does the exam actually test you on this stuff? Let's take a quick tour and see what focusing on concepts really looks like in practice, using the clues from our source material. Our first stop on this little tour is that foundational domain we talked about: security principles. The practice exam we're looking at has 20 questions just on this topic. Now, here's the crazy part. After every single one of those 20 questions, the explanation is basically this. And at first, you might think, well, that's not very helpful. But hold on. It's actually the most helpful clue of all. It is screaming at you over and over that the right answer is always tied to a fundamental concept or a best practice, not some random, obscure technical fact. Let's just jump over to another key area for a second. The biggest domain on the whole exam, network security. And what do you know? It is the exact same pattern. This basically confirms the central secret that the source material is trying to show us. Success on this exam isn't about memorizing a million different commands. It is about deeply understanding the core principles that apply across every single domain. That's the key. So let's bring this all home. We've gone over the strategy, we've mapped out the territory, and now we really get the philosophy behind the exam. Your path to success is actually crystal clear. So here are the big things to take away from all this. First, you've got your quest map. That's knowing the 5 domains and how much they're worth. Second, you've got your strategic toolkit. Those are the 5 core exam strategies for tackling the questions. And most important of all, you have your focus. Master the fundamental concepts. That right there is the true north for all your preparation. Look, the path is laid out for you. The tools are right here in your hand, and the goal is totally in sight. You have everything you need to start this journey and absolutely crush it. So the only question left is, what's your first step?